Okay, so now what we're going to do is find the page that registers the identity users. So that page that we go to when we want to register a new user. Let's go to the identity area, pages, account, and under account we will see a register.cs HTML. Now if we look closer at the register.cs HTML, we'll see an at model, register model, and the register model receives the following inputs: email, password, and confirm password. So if we go to register.cs.html.cs, let's take a look at the code of what's there. As you can see, within the with each of the CS HTMLs, sometimes you're going to have a CS file associated with it. And in this case, we got a little bit lucky because our model is in that CS HTML file. So let's see what our model has as attributes. So I'm looking through the code. And we see input model, which has an email, a password, and a confirm password. So let's add 3 more fields to that input model. Let's call the first one first name, second one last name, and you guessed it, the third one date, time, and birth date. Let's make them all required. So what this data annotate, these things in square brackets at the top are called data annotations. And by putting required within those square brackets, it makes it so that this value has to have, the first name attribute has to have a value, otherwise it won't be created. So our actual program will error out when trying to register the user. We'll delve more into data annotations a bit later, the theory behind it and how to use it. But for now, know that it is used in order to provide an easier way for form validation of inputs. Okay, so now we have our input model. And let's take a look at our model here. So our model receives input.email. We also want 3 more columns, or 3 more rows for the values we just added. So I'll say the first value would be first name. So as you can see, we have a label, space ASP-4 is equal to input.firstName. This is the name that the label will have. It'll pull it from this value. So if you recall before, we used display name in order to change the value that was displayed in our notes to be the space title instead of title. So in the case over here, if we were to specify a different display name, like a first name with a space between the first and the name, it would split it out. That's the use of using this. So you could just change it in one spot and it would change everywhere. It's very useful. So now let's do the same thing for last name. And finally, for birth date. Okay. So now let's see what happens when we try to register a new user. That should be enough to require those inputs when we're registering a user. And to load those values into our table. It's as simple as that. So we go to register, and suddenly we have a first name. So I'm going to input my information, and I even got a nice little date time drop down here. So I'll say January 3rd. Let's make myself a little bit younger. So 2014, that's my birthday. Go to checkbox. The time, which we still have to do, we'll remove that a little bit later. I have to specify that. My email is too complicated, so I'll say test4 and enter in a password. And register. Confirm my account. Okay, so now we created a new test user, and that new user should technically have the first name, last name, and birthday filled out, which it doesn't. So something else is happening in the code that I missed. So if we go back to our register.chtml, we will see that on submit, the input model is probably assigning getting its values assigned somewhere. Okay, so here it is. So on post, or when the actual information is sent, we're only saving the actual email. But for the application user, we also need to set from the input model the first name, the last name, and the birthday. So we'll do that on the creation of this object, like so. Is equal to first name is equal to last name is equal to, and birthday is equal to. We'll check to see if it's used anywhere else other than here. Nope. So that's the only place that we missed. So now when we create a new user, those columns in the table should be filled out. So let's try it once more. Log out. Always check to make sure your changes, no matter how confident you are, always are applied to the data. Okay. Time. and I will register, confirm the account. Now I'll go to the database and verify that the new user, user number 5, has the first name, the last name, and the birthday we specified. So ta-da! We have successfully modified the register form to pull in the new identity information and save it. Congratulations! So this concept could be applied in different areas as well. While we aren't going to delve that much into it, currently, there are quite a few takeaways which we'll discuss after we finish the remaining tasks.